Welcome to The Lock Shop with Nielsen and Hustler, powered by Coolbet Canada.
All right, what's going on, Lock Shoppers? Dusty and Huss with you here, presented to you, as always, by our great partners at Coolbet. Sign up for an account today and use the code LOCKSHOP at Coolbet.com. You get a 100% deposit bonus on your initial deposit up to 200 smackaroos, and the boys are rolling. The boys are rolling this week. Huss, how you doing, buddy?
I want to throw up that Barry Horowitz gif of the old self pat on the back. What a night last night for the fellas in the Lock Shop. Everyone around here's fired up. Jets had a hell of a game. Mark Scheifele came back with a vengeance after an off game for him in that comeback win on Saturday. We nailed the WST parlay and then followed that up with the Lock Shop partner parlay.
Oh,
Dusty.
boy.
So, overall, smiles all around as we get into Wednesday and get closer to finals weekend in the Canadian Football League and another big week of NFL action.
Just it's nice to get momentum like this, eh? It's nice to be rolling in hot like this as we work our way towards another weekend in the National Football League. A little bit of a slate tonight, nothing of significance in the National Hockey League. We'll get to that as well. Canadian Football League, both lines have moved. We can hit on that briefly. And we take an early look ahead to the NFL weekend as well. Busy night in the association. So there's certainly lots to get to, Huss, but a nice win for the Winnipeg Jets.
Yeah, I mean, it was like, listen, they did not start very well. I'm not sure whether they knew that it was a 7:07 puck drop and not about 7:20. But Connor Hellebuck made some big saves. And the thing about the team was, I mean, like everybody was selling out. I don't know if you saw the save that Dylan DeMello made on what was
I didn't see it.
A wide open net, and he basically just dove the puck in and literally played goalie, made a save. Nemetsnikov did the same thing a little later on. And Hellebuck's hilarious. I'm sure you'll ask him about that. And he's like, yeah, it was nice to see them help out. I mean, I still may have made the save if it got past him. He was like 5 feet out of the net. That wouldn't be happening. But he has a special level of confidence. And yeah, Mark Scheifele, man, like I've been getting texts from people. Like that was his best game since when? That might be our why not question of the day today for on the program. And man, like, I mean, that Adam Lowry line just continues to dominate. But, you know, I was just talking with Remus before we were chopping it up with Farhan about this BC Winnipeg game. And, you know, you look through the ice time. I know this is probably very strange to hear in Edmonton because of the way the rosters and the forward is, but everybody playing, nobody in single digit minutes, nobody over 20 minutes for forwards. I mean, rolling four lines.
A real team.
Getting contributions from everyone. You know, it is crazy. I mean, when you think about where Winnipeg was throughout the offseason, the questions about the Vancouver Canucks, that right now when you talk about hockey and the National Hockey League teams in Canada, there is a blazing inferno in Edmonton. The Flames are still engulfed with flames despite winning 2 in a row. Ottawa has tons of turmoil, and the Leafs have sort of been up and down. And to think that the Jets are rolling the way they are, and the Vancouver Canucks are not just the best team in Canada, but one of the best teams in the league, it really has been a stunning first dozen games or so in the NHL, but nothing more than in your market. And I mean, listen, let's quickly get to it. What was the reaction around, and what's the plan for Ken Holland now that Jack Campbell's been put on waivers? What does this do for the Oilers? And is this the first move of more to come, considering the struggles that the team's had early on?
It's funny you ask about Ken Holland's plan because I'm not sure he has one, Huss. So that's a very clever trick question. Look, the weird thing is that Jack Campbell actually has a better save percentage this year than Stuart Skinner. So they're going to see what happens with Jack Campbell. He goes down. I mean, he's going to clear. I would be very surprised if anybody picked up that deal right now. What's going to happen is I would project it goes like this. He goes down to the American Hockey League, puts up some pretty good numbers because they play a little bit more of a structured defensive game down there. And, you know, it's the American Hockey League. Then they'll claim, oh, Jack Campbell's got his game back, so they'll call him back up in a couple of weeks. He'll come back up here and have the same god-awful team playing defense in front of him, and he'll get let up again, and he'll go, well, it's just not going to work with Jack Campbell. So, I mean, I don't think there's a plan here. If they were to somehow lose to the red-hot San Jose Sharks tomorrow, I think some people, I don't think Ken Holland will have an opportunity to execute the next step of his plan if they were to lose to San Jose. So, we talked about it on our show this morning. Like, what have they accomplished by sending down Jack Campbell? Because if Stuart Skinner starts tomorrow, they're dressing the exact same team. If they start Pickard tomorrow, okay, you've started a guy who last had his save percentage above 900 in the National Hockey League in 2017. So, I mean, he's had a nice start in the American League right now, but Pickard's not coming in and stopping a bunch of backdoor tap-ins that the team continues to allow. So, the only thing I can think of here is, they truly believe that he can get his confidence back in the American Hockey League, but he looked like he had his confidence back in the preseason and in his first, well, not the first start because the Canucks smoked all of them. That was more on the team in front of him. Then he had a great start against Nashville. You know what's the worst thing for Jack Campbell's confidence? Playing behind Darnell Nurse and Evan Bouchard and Cody Ceci. Like, that's the worst thing for his confidence. So, I mean, I don't know how they're going to get that back on track. So, we'll see how this goes, but I just have a hard time believing that not having Jack Campbell around all of a sudden fixes what ails the Edmonton Oilers,
I mean, he does make $5 million, and I think the salary was as big of a part of moving him. I mean, again, he wasn't even the guy that played in their last game, which was sort of funny.
But the thing with the salary is that they actually only saved $387,000.
Yeah, so they'll like, cap space, but it'll take a while for them to get it. So there's no the cavalry isn't right around the corner. I take it.
I don't believe so. So no, but here's what's going to happen. They're going to come out and pump the San Jose Sharks because everybody pumps the San Jose Sharks, and then for a day they're going to be like, this is great, it works, like, everything's fine, and then they'll go out against Seattle, and we'll see what happens against the Kraken on the weekend. So
let's play guess the line for that game tomorrow between the Oilers and the Sharks. Like, what's the Oiler money line number going to be? Minus 250?
I might even push it up towards 3. Honestly, like I'm already on whatever the 2.5 number is. I'm on the minus 2.5. Like, they have all the skill in the world. The Sharks are a disaster. If the Oilers don't beat them by 4 or 5 goals, I don't know how that doesn't happen. Like,
what happens if the Oilers squeak one out and get 2 points in a shootout? How will that be received?
There'll be a small win is a win crowd, but there'll be the also small, like, San Jose might be the worst team in the history of the National Hockey League, and you had to take them to a shootout crowd. So, that would be great for action on Friday's show. I'm not gonna lie. I'll be the selfish guy that looks at it and goes, "Ooh, that could be juicy."
Hey, while we just kind of hit a couple of these big stories coming out of last night in the National Hockey League. So whatever, we finished up watching the Jet game, and then shout out to Bars with the center ice. We got the Jersey Colorado game up on one screen, which was a hell of a game. And then saw the Calgary Flames come back against the Nashville Predators. And, we didn't have the sound on for that game. So it took a little while to realize that Jonathan Huberdeau had his ass stapled to the bench in the third period when, coincidentally or not coincidentally, the Calgary Flames played maybe their best period of the season and got a big win. I mean, this is more, the Oiler problem seems to be a little bit more widespread, but the Jonathan Huberdeau situation, like, dude, he's made 1.5 or 2 million of the 84 that they owe him. What a mess for him personally. And it is, I mean, it says something that they played the way they did and got that win without Huberdeau. And yep. I am absolutely fascinated to see how that goes forward, because listen, if he was at a different point in his career and his contract was different, I mean, could you move him? Absolutely. You're not moving him in the first year of a contract that pays him $10.5 million as one of the highest paid players in the league.
You mentioned the word fascinating, and I think it's very interesting how the two coaches in Alberta are handling things, because, the Flames were chasing the game last night. You think Huberdeau would be a guy that could help provide you with a little offense, and they said, screw it, doesn't matter. He's not playing. Whereas in that Oilers loss to the Canucks, Jay Woodcroft was asked like 3 times by Mark Spector after the game about not holding Evan Bouchard accountable for screwing up on the fourth goal against in the game. And Jay Woodcroft's reasoning was, well, I'd like to see him play that better, but we're chasing the game and we need our offensive guys out there. So, he's not really holding anybody accountable. If you want to try to pass this Jack Campbell being sent down as accountability, I mean, I don't know if it really moves the needle on that front. But it worked out well for Huska because not only did he bench him, you said they came back, and I'm not going to say they rallied around not having Huberdeau, but everybody might have just started pulling in the same direction. And not only did they storm back and win the game, but they stormed back and kept the partner parlay alive for the rest of the night until the Colorado Avalanche could finish the job. So, yeah, that was good. That was really good.
Well, listen, no shortage of things for guys like us to talk about right now with the various Canadian cities. And the craziest thing about it is I just talked to Farhan for a Winnipeg Sports Talk coming up. And, we mostly were talking Bombers and Lions, a little bit of NFL. But, Canuck fans don't even know what to do. I mean, their MO is bitching and being depressed and hating everything. And Rick Tocchet has this team playing as well as maybe any in the league right now. They're 9-2-1. And the Canucks have quietly become one of the best teams around the National Hockey League right now. It's I'm actually looking at the schedule. When the heck did the Jets play the Canucks? I'm looking forward to this one. That has not been appointment viewing in the past, shall we say?
Yeah, I think Oilers fans are okay not seeing the Canucks again for quite some time. So already lost to them 3 times. I don't think they play them again until April. The scary thing is about the Oilers, buddy, is that they haven't even got remotely close to what would be described as the hard portion of their schedule. Like their schedule so far it's been a cupcake. And they've already pissed it away. Like there's going to be much more difficult portions of this schedule. And usually when you have to put together like a run where you're going to be 15 games above 500 or even 20 games above 500, you do that with a lot of soft schedule along the way, and they've wasted at least one of the soft schedule parts of the schedule this year. So not ideal from that front, but things are really good in Vancouver. Things are pretty good in Winnipeg. Things are a bit of a roller coaster in Toronto at times. Things are not good in Ottawa. Things are not good in Calgary. Things are not good in Edmonton. And I think you'd have to describe as things pretty good so far in Montreal as well. So a quick summary of things around the National Hockey League.
The Habs have been, listen, I still don't think they're very good, and I still don't think they're going to be in the mix in 6 weeks. But yeah, listen, they've manufactured 2 points on a lot of nights that maybe they you didn't expect them to get it, or maybe even they didn't deserve it. But it's all about being, you'd rather take the points than say we can be better than say, oh, we're playing great, but not getting any points. Or worse, we're playing terrible and not getting any points. And that, it seems, is where the oil is at right now. That you would have not thought that a 9:30 p.m. game with the worst team in the league would be appointment viewing, but I don't think that every person that follows the National Hockey League is going to be watching that game tomorrow night to see what the Edmonton Oilers bring to the table against the San Jose Sharks.
3 games on tap tonight in the National Hockey League. So let's stick with hockey. Before we slide on over to football. And like I said, it's a little bit of line movement in the CFL. We didn't look at the opening numbers for the NFL yesterday, so we'll certainly get into that as well. Senators and Leafs tonight. Panthers and Capitals, and Kings and the Golden Knights. Boy, this is a nice little schedule tonight. Sens and Leafs, obviously, in a little bit of an early game, and then the Kings and Golden Knights to bring it home later. I'm actually looking forward to watching that one. There's a nice schedule in the NBA tonight, too. The Denver Nuggets are playing the Golden State Warriors. It's going to be some good sports action tonight. I actually kind of had to hold my nose a bit earlier today, and the cool bet hotline of the day on the Nielsen show was Austin Matthews to score a goal tonight at -120, just because I feel like that's a number that should be beyond -120 right now with the way that he's been playing so far. So I already am on an Austin Matthews goal tonight. And he was, I mean, you talked about yesterday on the Lock Shop. Like, he was the main driving force in them getting things done and turning that game around against the Tampa Bay Lightning. He's been outstanding. What was it? As of prior to yesterday, he had more goals than the San Jose Sharks' entire team so far this year. So I like him tonight. That was our cool bet hotline of the day. But what are you looking at these 3 games here tonight, buddy?
Well, let's just talk about that game for a minute. I mean, you got the Leafs, who did have that big comeback win against the Lightning on Monday, or after they were down 4-1 after the first period. And that was coming off 4 straight losses, 6-4 to the Sabres at home, the road loss in the shootout to the Boston Bruins that broke the streak, 4-1 loss to the Kings, and the 3-2 loss to the Predators. Like, does the big comeback put them back in a good spot? Because I'll tell you one thing, this Ottawa team, I think they're going to look a lot like Buffalo did coming into Toronto. They have to be desperate right now. They know that they're playing catch up early on. They've got their history. I saw this yesterday on Twitter or whatever. The Senators' record in November over the last few years has been so bad that they've basically played themselves out of playoff contention by American Thanksgiving. And I mean, that wasn't the plan for this year. That's part of the reason why there's so much pressure on DJ Smith. And, we heard Brady Tkachuk sort of give it to the fans. Claude Giroux echoing that as well yesterday. This is going to be a fascinating game for a couple reasons. A, how do the Leafs build off a big win against one of their rivals in a game that they're at home? They are favored. But I just have a feeling that Ottawa is going to come in there with a level of desperation and urgency that begats their situation right now. So I've got a tough time picking a straight winner on that, but I do see a path for Ottawa actually to get that road win. Although I kind of think the smart money's probably on Toronto considering the way they played and came back. They've got to build off that win against Tampa.
Well, and that's the thing. Like that Toronto team should be just as desperate, having lost 4 in a row before that win over Tampa, and then looking like they were in trouble against Tampa, and they got that going a little bit. Ottawa's coming in off a 6-4 loss to Tampa. Ottawa's lost 5 of 6, and in 3 of those games, they've given up at least 5 or 6 goals. So I would think Toronto, I mean, that's another nice stat that backs up the Auston Matthews play to score a goal tonight, is that Ottawa has given up a bunch of goals I'm just looking here at the history of the Ottawa Senators. Their last 10 games, the total has been at 7 in 4 of them, and all the other ones were at 6.5. So maybe there's a total play. I know the total's at 7 tonight, but you could bump that down to 6.5 and throw it into something if you really wanted to.
Yeah, and I'd imagine Woll be getting the start after Samsonov got the yank in that game on the other side. And I mean, listen, Ottawa Korpisalo has been okay at times, but not good enough on others. I mean, the other game that I think is appointment viewing tonight is the late one. The Kings and the Golden Knights. And these two teams played about 2 weeks ago or so in LA. And the Knights were able to pull one out it was either overtime or a shootout. I can't remember, but it was a 3-point game. The Kings are in a very, very good spot right now. They had the 5-0 shutout of the Flyers, 1-3-2 the Sens, that really impressive win where they just didn't give the Leafs anything on this road trip. And now they got another shot at the champs. This is, I don't know, maybe I am extra high on LA just because I've watched them a little bit more. We saw them here. I mean, if you look at the entire Winnipeg Jets schedule of the season, probably the 2 roughest periods the Jets have had all season long was when they fell behind to LA, and the Kings just did not give them anything with that 1-3-3 that sucked the life out of them. Like, Vegas has had such a great start. They finally lost in regulation to the Ducks of all teams. I think I might put a little sprinkle on the Kings tonight as a money line underdog in LA, because I think these two teams, now that the Oilers are sort of where the Oilers are right now, the Pacific Division is pretty top heavy with the Kings, the Canucks, and the Golden Knights being the team to beat. I mean, I have a feeling this might have somewhat of a playoff feel to it. Certainly, I could see this one. What do we have for Kings plus 1.5? Yeah, minus 224. That's way too juicy to get to. But as I say, I don't mind the Kings at plus 114 tonight in maybe a bit of a statement game against the Knights, who sort of got pushed back to reality with that loss to the Ducks.
Yeah, they've got points in 9 of 10. Like in their last 10 games, they've got points in 9 of them. The only loss was getting doubled up against Boston. Outside of that, they've been involved in getting points out of every single game that they played over their last 10. So I can understand where you'd be coming from on that one. Any sort of thoughts on Florida, Washington?
I was just gonna say, I mean, the Caps have won 4 of their last 5, but at the same time, it has seemed like this team is just not the Caps of that we remember being this dominant club for so long. Now, listen, they beat the Sharks there. They beat the Wild, who were struggling. A nice win in Jersey, and a home win against the Blue Jackets. But I understand why the Florida Panthers are the favorite, and the Panthers have just sort of been win 2, lose 1, lose 2, win 1. After they started here in Winnipeg, well, they started off 2-0. I think I like the Panthers in this game, just because I think they're a better, more deep team. Like, I don't know. Have you watched much of Washington this year?
I have not watched much of Washington. Like, my son and I are both Ovi fans, but we just haven't tracked down time to watch a lot of Washington yet this year. So
it basically seems like the Capitals' singular goal at times, is not necessarily to win, but just to figure out a way to get Ovi the puck to score. I mean, it's like a team mission to get Ovechkin this record. And at the start, it was, I don't know, maybe they've got away from it a little bit over this last little run. That being said, at minus 139, the Panthers, I think you got to run with that one. They're, I just like them more than Capitals, although it's not a real strong one. But, put the Panthers with the Kings plus 268. Might dance with that one, or maybe just make a couple of single bets. We got to get ready for another big slate on Thursday.
Exactly.
And I think that's when we go back to the well with another LSPP and try and make it 2 in a row.
Yeah, I think we do. We definitely do that. The one thing I do like tonight, if you want to ride with, would be moving the Sens and Leafs down to 6.5, and then taking the Kings and Golden Knights up to 6.5, and you put those together, and it's plus 203 on just a couple of totals tonight, which I really like.
Under 6.5 for the
take the under 6.5 in the Kings Golden Knights game.
Yeah,
and then go over 6.5 in the Ottawa Toronto game. So you move them both by a half, and you can get it to plus 203. So
I don't mind that.
Yeah, I don't mind that one. Plus 203 is not too bad there. But just the 3 games tonight in the National Hockey League. Quick look at the starting goalies for you just before we move on. Joseph Woll is likely. So that's probably been confirmed. Forsberg unconfirmed at this point. Bobrovsky is going to start. Kemper is likely. Talbot and Aiden Hill are unconfirmed at this point. But as Chris Morris pops out in the Nasty Chat, says Talbot's rocking a 214 and Hill's rocking a 1.81. Both goalies still probable, but under 6.5 seems like a pretty safe wager, which I would agree with, and I threw into that over in the Toronto-Ottawa game. And you get the plus 203. Huss, let's go ahead.
No, I think you're. You mentioned there's been a little line movement. I hadn't checked that out this morning in our CFL games on the weekend.
Yes. So yesterday the lines were 10.5 and 4.5, and the lines have been moving in favor of the favorites as people are expecting the rematch of last year's Grey Cup. It'll be the Toronto Argos, now sitting at 11-point favorites against the Montreal Alouettes, and the Winnipeg Blue Bombers are 5-point favorites at home now against the BC Lions. Now, did I see Nick Dembski and Schoen weren't at practice yesterday? I saw Dembski is doing some sideline work today. Still no sign of Schoen. Are you surprised that this is moving Winnipeg's way right now, or not?
Nah, I mean,
like it doesn't go much further, does it?
Well, I don't think so. I mean, I kind of thought that this would be 4. So at 5. Listen, if you were thinking about betting BC, to be honest, I think there's, getting 5 points in a game like this is probably quite good. But inevitably, especially in games like this, where maybe we're getting more people popping in and putting a little action in on the games that haven't been paying attention all year long, they're just thinking, okay, well, hey, listen, Winnipeg is Winnipeg in the West. And obviously the Argos were 16-2, so they're going to run and just hammering the favorites. And that's probably the way most of the bets will go. But I think that does give you some opportunities, at least on the spread, for the underdogs. And when we talked yesterday about Montreal at 10 or 10.5, I mean, getting up to 11, once you get past 11, though, that's a big number to get to. So that might be, or even now could be the time to jump in on the Alouettes. And listen, I'm pretty confident that the Bombers get this one done. But when you think about the way the Bombers have won games and what BC brings to the table, like there's absolutely a good chance that this is a close game in the fourth quarter. And the Bombers maybe need to rely on that offensive line of Brady Oliveira to close a team out like they've done so many times by just moving the football, getting first downs. And you don't get points with first downs, especially when you don't need the points to actually win the football game. So, and the total actually has gone up in the Winnipeg, BC as well. That was 49.5. It's now 50.5. Both games at 50.5 right now.
Oh, yeah. So, yeah, you're right. That's moved too. So, yeah, both games sitting at 50.5. Huh. All right. So that's where it's at. We'll see if there's any more movement tomorrow. We'll lock in some picks on Friday. Oh, by the way, Huss, Friday I have to be flying to Winnipeg, so it'll be you and the Cool Bet boys on the log shop again.
You got it.
I have to
Send
go.
in your pick.
I have to go through Calgary too. It sucks. So I'm on 2 flights that day. I couldn't make it onto the direct in time. So,
but it was sold out. Or?
I don't. Was it sold out? I don't know. I don't know why, but I'm going through Calgary and over, which pisses me off. But whatever. I mean, what are you going to do? All right, National Football League. We have not had a chance to really dive into these. Might as well take a quick rip through all these lines. Obviously, we'll get into the Thursday nighter tomorrow and our best bets on Friday. Well, let's just Panthers and Bears. The Chicago Bears being a 3.5-point favorite. I mean, I don't even want to. I'll watch it because that's what we do. But I'm not overly intrigued by this football game.
I'm quite thankful that the Jets are playing the Predators tomorrow night, and I'll be at the game.
And Oilers Sharks too, right? So we'll be watching that one for the most part.
Yeah, this is gonna be a score app game where you just keep checking out what's going on in the app and watching it. One big injury for Carolina. Brian Burns is out. He will not play with a concussion. He is, their biggest and best player on the defensive side of the football. 3.5 though to lay for a team like the Bears. And now I did hear that there's a possibility that Fields would be back.
I think I saw yesterday it was confirmed that he would not. But actually, no, that was on Sunday morning saying that he might be able to go on Thursday. So
let's do a quick look.
I'm just taking a quick look. If anybody knows if that's been, it wouldn't have been confirmed one way or the other yet.
Okay,
anyway,
my guy Danny Parkins that does the afternoon show on 640 tweeted out 1 minute ago.
Ooh.
I'll get on the record and say the Bears are about to announce Justin Fields as the starter for Thursday.
Okay.
Not reporting this, call it a hunch. Now, I've learned long enough that when guys are popping in insider info or something like that, it's usually done with a little bit more behind it. Now, Rappaport said if he isn't a full participant at Bears walkthrough practice, he's not going to play tomorrow. So, I guess we'll have to just pay attention to that over the course of the next bit. I think that if he does play, I don't mind the Bears.
If he does play, what do you think happens to this line?
Maybe it gets to 4.
Yeah.
I think the line kind of already maybe indicates that. Well, I guess they are playing the Panthers.
I was gonna say, I'm like, this line almost already feels Justin Fieldish with this Bears team, but he's not moving it 2 points. But I could see it going to 4 once it's announced that he goes. So we got a Fields hunch right now. That's what we got. We got a Fields hunch for tomorrow, and we'll dive into that game more tomorrow. P. Greg will pop by for a visit and everything. It'll be a lot of fun.
Yeah. The hunch, let me know when the field goal prop is out for this game.
Exactly.
That might be a sole wager.
Just the only game is field goal. Yes.
Over 3.5 field goals and see what happens. But this is a weird week. And man, I don't know if you've checked your fantasy lineups.
Lots of guys on buys, buddy, and yeah.
Well, I mean, and big time teams. I mean, no Eagles, no Chiefs. So the waiver wire was, I think, a little bit more active. But hey, what a way, you treat the fans in Frankfurt to two of the best, most exciting teams in the league last week with the Chiefs and Dolphins, and then follow that up with Gardner Minshew and the Indianapolis Colts against Mac Jones and the New England Patriots. And I'm just looking forward to all the press conferences. I mean, Is there anyone that sells the game of football better than Bill Belichick? How's that gonna go over in Germany?
Oh, this is great. Have you seen the head coach of the Patriots? He is really moving the needle and promoting the game over here. The Colts are 1.5-point favorites on the road against New England. I'll take a quick rip through these, and then Huss, you can let me know any games that kind of pop out after we go through it quickly here. The Ravens at home, 6-point favorites against the Browns in a divisional game there. The Texans plus 6.5 on the road in Cincy. The Niners are 3-point road favorites despite recent struggles against the Jacksonville Jaguars, who are coming in off a bye. Niners off a bye too, though, right? So
yeah,
two teams off a bye there. Saints 2.5-point favorites on the road in Minnesota. The Packers are 3.5-point dogs on the road in Pittsburgh. Tampa just favored by a single point against the Titans. That one is in Tampa. The Cardinals at home, 1.5-point dogs to the Falcons. Kyler Murray expected to be back in that game, right? So that's something to look at. Chargers plus 2.5 at home against the Detroit Lions. So the Lions inside a field goal on the road against the Chargers. The Giants, the classic 16-point dog on the road in Dallas. Commanders, 6.5-point underdogs on the road in Seattle. The Jets are 1-point favorites against the Raiders. And the Buffalo Bills, 7.5-point favorites at home against the Denver Broncos. What outside of that big 16 sitting there staring at us, anything else jump off the page?
Well, you know what? Just speaking of that one, and I don't know. I mean, my God, if it's Tommy DeVito starting, maybe they can, have something good happen and get Tyrod back. But we all remember the last time the Cowboys were a massive double-digit favorite, don't we? That was when they lost to Arizona earlier on this season. This is not a trustworthy team, folks. But they have had some massive, massive wins so far this season, including, what was the Cowboys week 1, right? 40-0?
40-0.
40-0. So I guess we can understand why the spread is what it is. Really intrigued about this Cleveland-Baltimore game. And to me, like this, I think I'm leaning like at first glance on Cleveland. I know that Baltimore has been the class of the division so far, but all of these teams are so good. The Browns defense, we know how legit they are. And Deshaun Watson came back, played last week. I think that this one might be a tight one. I could see it being a 3-point game. Put it this way. I guarantee you that the Ravens don't stomp all afternoon the way they did against the Seahawks last week. The Browns will be ready for this game. And here's a complaint I have. How in the world did they not flex the freaking Jets-Raiders game out of prime time on Sunday for one of these other games? Like Lions-Chargers.
Yeah,
sure,
that'd be a much better
problem.
Sunday nighter.
I mean, even Packers-Steelers would be more interesting and better, I think, than those two teams. Saints-Vikings would be a great matchup. And to me, the game of the week is the game that you alluded to. San Francisco on a 3-game losing streak, coming off the bye, going to Jacksonville to take on the Jags. I do like the Niners in this. I mean, I still think the Niners are at the top of the elite tier of the NFC, despite what's happened over the last month. But this is not an easy game with where Jacksonville is right now. I'm expecting San Francisco to have a big performance coming out of the bye. But I just can't believe that this is a noon game and we have to watch the Jets and Raiders on prime time on Sunday night.
I want to get in quickly to the Detroit Lions, just 2.5-point favorites on the road against the Chargers. The Chargers have won 2 in a row, but they were against the Bears and then a Jets team that really couldn't get anything going offensively in that game. Prior to that, they lost to Kansas City. They lost to Dallas. They beat the Raiders, who were a god-awful train wreck at the time. They beat them 24-17. They beat the Vikings right before the Vikings kind of figured it out, and then opened the season with losses to Tennessee and Miami. Do you think that number sits at 3 by the time things kick off?
Probably. I think we're already seeing, if I'm not mistaken, it's minus 116 for the 2.5.
For the 2.5, yeah.
At 3, the Chargers plus 3 is minus 116, And Detroit's basically even money if you want to lay the 3 on this. And the Lions were on the bye last week, right?
Yeah. Yeah, they're coming off a bye.
So, and this is the Widowmaker position for the Chargers. You know, they're playing the Monday night. They've got the short week playing against a team, never mind playing Thursday, coming straight up off the bye. So, yeah, I like that. I mean, to me, the Lions they're just, of those tiers of teams, they're in a much higher tier than the Chargers are in right now. And I don't mind getting it at 3 right now to get a much better number because listen, when I look at these two teams right now and see where they're at, I think Detroit is the team that you're going to be on, even and despite being on the road. But again, what's being on the road at SoFi playing against the Chargers?
Yeah.
You know how fired up Lions fans are. I will be interested to see how many Lions fans are filling that stadium in LA on Sunday afternoon, because the roar has been restored. I mean, if you saw that Buccaneers game and how many Lions fans were there, like they finally have a reason to get legitimately excited about their team and maybe go on a road trip. This is going to be, I like Detroit, and I think this will be showing out both on the field and in the stands for the blue and silver.
So that's an early look ahead. We'll get into the Thursday nighter tomorrow on the Lock Shop, and then obviously best bets on Friday. I will pass mine along to Huss here, and he can get into it with Patty and Jake and the boys from Cool Bets. NBA has a huge slate tonight, Huss. I'm just taking a peek here. Are the Spurs are in action? If we wanted to dive into Wemby a little bit, that dude is he's starting to hit. Like it's starting to click for him. Those games against the Suns were absolutely phenomenal to watch. But it's a full slate tonight. We got into it a little bit earlier on our show this morning as Mr. Lean decided to move the Warriors and Nuggets from 227 down to 226.5 and then take the over in that one. So I am very much hoping for a game to hit just 227 tonight so I can be like, that was a brilliant move, taking it down half a point. But that game's going to be, that's must-watch television tonight. That should be good. My Lakers are playing a little bit earlier on against the Houston Rockets. And, Wemby's in New York City at MSG. Celtics and 76ers tonight as well. This is a real nice association slate.
It has been. And listen, I'm a very casual early on in the season with the NBA. I mean, I'll watch the odd game on a night like tonight when maybe there's only a couple hockey games on, but I have been watching Wemby. That 38-point performance he had last week was, stunning maybe is an overstatement because we knew this guy was capable of some pretty special stuff. But I mean, the way they beat the Suns in that game, and then he, the earliest player, it took 5 games for him to get to 38 points in a game. I saw a graphic of like the all-time greats in the league, how long it took them. And let's just say it was a lot longer than 5 points. Wemby over 19.5 in his MSG debut. How do we not jump on that tonight?
I think I like that a lot. Yeah.
The Spurs themselves are plus 365 underdogs. Like, are the Knicks that good? I know people aren't expecting a lot from the Spurs, but I think we've seen some pretty exciting stuff from them so far. For instance, those games against the Suns. Like, I'm not sitting here saying that they're going to win, but that does seem like a crazy number for a team that's had a couple big wins already. I might consider this 10 points for San Antonio, but let's just worry about the big guy right now. 20 points in his MSG debut. He seems like a guy that understands
rise to the occasion a bit here. Yeah.
Yeah. There's going to be a lot of attention on him tonight. I think he'll do it. What do we have for rebounds for the big guy? Over 8.5 for the rebounds. And this is always my favorite one for Wembanyama. 3-pointers. And the 3-pointer, which we got plus money last week on over 1.5.
Yeah.
It's now over 2.5, but at plus 145. I think I might go with the points and then a little supplemental sprinkle on the over 2.5 3-pointers for Wemby, showing off all the tools that he has in the toolbox tonight against the Knicks.
Yeah, Wemby's last 4 games, 18 points, 18 boards, did hit 2 threes. That was the game I think we had that on. Then it was against Phoenix again. That's where he went off for 38, 10, had 3 3-pointers in that game. Against the Raptors, he was 20 and 9 points and boards, hit 2 threes in that one. Like he's shooting 5, 6, 7 threes per game, right? So he's not hesitating to take some shots in some big moments as well. Mad says, does Dusty read this chat? And I said, yes. And he goes, I need Dusty's take on this NBA season tournament thing and if the NHL will ever pull it off. Huss, let's get to that before we have to take off to Winnipeg Sports Talk.
Yeah.
Like, I think I like it. The NBA is a forward-thinking league. Like, I think they always have been. So I think this is great what they're doing here. It adds something to a part of a schedule where, you know, you're probably not enthralled by all of the games. Now you take a game, division game, throw it on a different court, have these teams play for some money in the end, and all the games still count towards the regular season. So from like a scheduling perspective, I'm sure it's a bit of a nightmare, but they managed to pull it off. Do you see the National Hockey League ever having the foresight to try to pull something like this off?
I mean, listen, if this goes well for the NBA, absolutely. Like I'm totally here for it. And listen, I have a bit of a different background than a lot of people like in the quote unquote sports media. I mean, I spent a lot of time selling tickets and sponsorships for, you know, for the teams to get people in. And you know what the biggest struggle was, man? For people to care about game 11 of an 80-game regular season. Like the early part of the year, both in getting butts in seats, if you're not sold out every night, ratings, interest, all of that, you know, is real. And I think we all agree these seasons are way too long. But they're not going backwards. There's too much money to be made with all of these games between TV and tickets and all that. So if they can do something innovative to kind of take some games from this point of the year and make them a little bit more interesting, especially for teams that might have no shot whatsoever of winning the NBA title.
Exactly.
But, you know, you had 4 big games. I thought the courts were cool. I mean, it was sort of neat that they had like a different look and kind of to let everyone know, hey, this isn't just the same.
Yeah, it's a great idea.
Regular season game that we've had before. I just thought it was really well done. You know, at the end, all of these games still count in the regular season standings. So all of that makes sense. I think it's just sort of a unique kind of neat innovation that adds a little bit more to it. And then the fact that the semis and the finals are in Vegas, coming up on that weekend. I had some friends that are going down for a Raider game, and we were kind of looking, and I'm like, oh, wow, that's actually the finals of the NBA tournament that weekend. So I think it's going to be neat. And I would love to see, I mean, listen, if we're going to talk about some sort of in-season tournament for the National Hockey League, best on best, Gap doing something like this.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what we really need.
We have to have priorities, right? Like, yes.
Yeah. I mean, let's face it. It would be crazy if they kind of did something different. But if they went along these lines and just recreated the schedule and had some sort of extra, you know, an extra game, an extra prize once you got it through, I think I would be here for it. But again, even in hockey, because of the grind, like the willingness of teams to even play one extra game, I'm sure GMs will be saying, no, we don't want any part of that. We'll just go about our business normally. So there may be more obstacles to make it happen. But I am quite intrigued. I watched some of the first night of the tournament game. I thought it looked really cool on TV. It was very obvious that they were trying to show that this wasn't just game 6 of an 80-game regular season. So I'm interested to see how things go from here.
It's coming up on Winnipeg Sports Talk today, buddy.
Well, we got a good chat with Farhan Lalji, locked and loaded, a little bit on the good vibes around the sports community on the West Coast. Deep dive into Bombers, Lions, a little bit of NFL talk. Scott Billick could jump on. We'll be talking Jets, big win last night. And Billick's the guy that's been all over the potential extension for Nino Niederreiter, whose agent is in town in Winnipeg this weekend, presumably to see his client and see the general manager of the Winnipeg Jets. So we'll tackle all that. And then for our local baseball team today, some big announcements. I think they're renaming the stadium.
What?
There is a big upgrade which is going to be a game changer, I think, for the experience there. And there's a new manager, so GM of the Gold Eyes is going to jump on with us as well. But lots of Jets talk today, lots of Bomber talk. We'll have the latest from Blue Bomber practice and get a little bit closer to Saturday afternoon, where you will be in the house with the call on a game that we've been waiting for months.
Yeah, I can, man. I got Zoom calls today with the BC Lions this afternoon. That's kind of like when things really sort of kick off. It's like, okay, time to focus on the game. I'm very much looking forward to it. I can't wait. I think it could be one of the best games that I hope it's not a dud. You know, I hope it's not a dud. Like, they played 2 games this year that you could describe as duds. The BC Lions rolling in that first game, and then the Bombers just absolutely feeding it to them. And then they did have that one game that at the end of the year ended up being, 6 points? Like, that ended up, that ended up being it was OT. That was an excellent, excellent football game. So give us that. Give us that in the West Final.
I mean, they raised the bar so far. I mean, I will maintain that's one of the best regular season games in the Canadian Football League in years. And just on the surface, for the 2 teams, the game was that good. But on top of it all was the stakes to have the bye, to have this game on Saturday at home. Obviously, the Bombers came out, but BC's no joke. They kind of remind me of the Bombers sort of in 17, 18, 19, where they sucked. Then they made the playoffs. They bounced out. Then they got to the West Final and lost. Then they got to the final and advanced. The Bombers are going to try and press pause on that development, but I mean, I think they've got a lot more experience. I think they will be more prepared for this game based on what they went through last year when they were here. So it's going to be awesome. We can't talk enough about it here in the PEG, and we'll look forward to seeing you on Friday night. And, of course, with the big call on Saturday. Yeah,
very much looking forward to it. That is going to do it for the Lock Shop today. Join us, Winnipeg Sports Talk. We got the oil stream coming up here on Edmonton Sports Talk, and we're diving into Fantasy Football 5 right now. See you later, buddy.
Yeah, Wemby, over 19.5. There's my official pick.
There's the play. MSG debut for the big fella, over 19.5. All right, let's get into it. Fantasy Football 5 brought to you by Century Casino Sports Bar and Lounge, Fort Road, the NFL home of everything Edmonton Sports Talk related. You'll be able to join Lieutenant Eric there tomorrow night. He will have the Panthers and the Bears. Smoked brisket cheesesteak, the guy says. Plus, obviously, Oilers and Sharks as well. We're coming at you from the Popeyes Louisiana Kitchen Studios. Man, crazy waiver day in one of my leagues. I thought, so did you go out and get Keaton Mitchell? This is what I'm wondering. If you have any fantasy football questions, now's the time. 780-218-9999. If you're listening live on TuneIn or at EdmontonSportsTalk.com, or hop on over into the nasty chat. We got about 5-10 minutes. And then, obviously, a huge episode of the Oil Stream coming up with Jack Campbell waived. We should know in about 10 minutes, if we don't already, if he is cleared or not. We will get into that as we work our way through the show today. Can you imagine the show today if somebody claims him? Oil Stream's going to be insane. But waiver wire madness in my one league. It's the big boy league, and I guess this guy was super desperate because I'm just looking at our waiver wire action. Let's see. Dobbs was added for a $4 bid. This is a fab league. I need a running back in this league, so I bid $35 on Keaton Mitchell. $200 budget. I've got most of it left, so I was like, you know what? $35 might be enough for a guy who's still going to be part of a huge split in a backfield with the Baltimore Ravens. Now, I did use Keaton Mitchell as my number one waiver priority claim in our 16-man league, the Rusty Truck Fantasy Football League. I desperately needed a running back in that one. Also, I have some trades lurking in that one too. Next week's our trade deadline in that league, so it's almost time to get things done. Somebody, the team name in the Big Boy League, the Big Effin' Rig, bid $100 for Keaton Mitchell. I don't know how much of his budget he had left. I'm assuming maybe he had the entire thing and he dropped 50% on it. But that seems pretty pricey to be dropping $100 of a $200 budget heading into week 10 or whatever it is for Keaton Mitchell. I guess where's this guy in the standings? Maybe he's like has to win out or something. Let's see. Yeah, he's in 11th right now. That's a tough look. I think you can see budget info. Oh, wow. Oh, this is Mandrusiak. I didn't realize that was Mandrusiak's team. That's Wayne Mandrusiak's son. Horrible management of the budget here. He now has nothing left. He blew his entire load on Keaton Mitchell. I'd have to text him. Because, well, what's his running back situation? What? Okay, now this makes no sense. He just spent the rest of his budget on Keaton Mitchell, and his other running backs are Bijan Robinson and Josh Jacobs. Plus, he has Kareem Hunt and Chuba Hubbard. It's like somebody hacked his bloody account. That doesn't make any sense. Do you think Maddie's thinking he's going to wheel and deal? I mean, maybe. Actually, I should try to get one of those bench guys from him, but that still seems like a lot. This seems like a pricey price to pay. 780-218-9999. Dan says $200 budget. Someone spent $77 on Dobbs. Woo! Now I would assume Superflex, right? Superflex. I would think. Penner's Pancake says there's legit talk that Dubas might claim Campbell, as Tristan Jarry might be on the LTIR. He got cut last night, right? I don't know. To me, spending $100 on Keaton Mitchell, maybe I'm just bitter because I spent $35 and didn't get him. But $100 seems a lot when you're not going to start him. Like, he's not starting him. And you got no budget left. Maybe this is why Max 2-7. Maybe that's what's going on. He's just in full-blown panic mode. You got to be careful with that fab budget. This is the only league. Well, no, that's not true. I'm not like. Where do we come out if you're listening right now? Where do you come out on fab budget leagues? Because I'm torn on them. I'm intrigued by the idea, and I'm in. What do I have? Like 3 fab budget leagues, so I'm in them. But I don't know if I like or love them. I'm intrigued by the idea of it, but maybe I don't. Maybe it's because I don't have enough time to properly distribute my budget, and that's why I don't love them as much as maybe I should. DeFlange says Mitchell went for $39 in his league. And is that on a $100 budget or on a $200 budget? Because I pitched $35 for him in a $200 budget league. And I still have, let me just see here quickly. I think I have most of my budget left in that league. Where's Calvin's Johnson? I'm always Calvin's Johnson in a lot of these leagues because it's a Calvin Johnson penis joke. $155 I still have left in that league. And I was willing to dish out about 35 of it. Only one guy has more budget than me left in that league. So I think that's an okay spot to be in at this point. Dan says somebody spent $77 on Dobbs in a 1-quarterback league. You know, I don't necessarily like to judge other people's moves without knowing, like, everything that their roster, like, is how it's constructed and what the other quarterbacks are like available if you're just going to stream. But spending $77 on Dobbs in a 1-quarterback league, once again, not to come across as a jerk, but that just seems stupid to me. But who knows? Maybe he ends up, and look, he can play, but that much of your budget on that guy in a QB league, we'll see. We'll see how that one plays out. Tomorrow we'll get to your must-starts for Thursday Night Football. Remember, it's a game between the Bears and Panthers, so it might not be anybody. We'll have to dive into that. Probably a running back for Carolina. If Justin Fields does end up playing, then possibly starting him in that matchup. But outside of that, not a sexy night when the Thursday nighter is for fantasy football. That's going to do it for the Fantasy Football 5 today, brought to you by Century Casino, Sports Bar and Lounge on Fort Road. Join Lieutenant Eric every Monday and Thursday night. And eventually, if you want to pop by on a Sunday, you can do that as well. And they're going to get you in the draw for that trip to Los Angeles to see the Rams and the Browns. Big Uke says, I picked up Dobbs on waivers weeks ago when Daniel Jones was hurt. Have a couple of guys who want to trade. One of them picked up Mitchell today, and I went and picked up Mitchell today for free. No one tried to claim him. What's going on in some of these leagues? It's ridiculous. So easy. All right, we got the oil stream coming up. We will dive into Jack Campbell either being claimed or sent down. That is coming up on the oil stream. Don't go anywhere. Make sure you have that autopilot on. We'll take you right over there. Tommy and I will be taking you through a bunch of Oilers chat with obviously your input at 780-218-9999 and in the nasty chat for the next hour or so right here at Edmonton Sports Talk.